Hey guys, Michael Neff here, Director of Gear Sports, and wanted to kind of give you a little short video on face angle. Um, Here is, in order to do that, I've picked Len Matisse and Jonas Blixt as kind of examples of two guys that kind of manipulate the face very differently. In gears, when you make the golf club, um, you put the head jig on the face, and where you put that becomes the face center at that point. And we also allow you to input how much bulge and roll the golf club has. So with an iron, this would be flat. The face angle would be the same at touch anywhere as it would be at the center. But with a driver, a fairway wood, or a hybrid, you're going to have bulge and roll. And so what that means basically is that wherever you touch the ball versus the center is going to be different, even though we're only 3 millimeters towards the heel here. If I were to have hit this ball in the middle, exactly 0-0, then and only then would the face at touch and the face at center be the same number. In this case, the face is slightly more closed at this point than it is at the center. So if Len Matisse would have hit this ball 3 millimeters closer to the center, then the face would actually be a little bit more open, and it would be the same amount open as if you were to hit it right there in the middle. So when we get it on this axis, you're going to see that number be the same. And but this is really a critical piece. So a lot of people think that the leading edge is the face angle, but that's not true. It's actually the face center is what we're after here. So in other words, and this is a huge distinction. So being able to understand where the face angle is, where the ball is actually leaving the face, where the gearing effect is occurring, and what's causing the launch conditions is super important. And I think that's where we separate ourselves from the pack, being able to give you very precise face mapping and all these relationships of loft, lie angle, face angle. So in the visual tools here, you'll see that there's a face angle line, and then I'm putting up a target line so you can kind of see that, and then club head vectors. So I'm going to basically go from above, and we'll pick Jonas here. This is Jonas here. So this is your D plane. This is basically your face to path relationship, and the club face right now. So like right now, the face to path is very square, and Jonas would have, and he's leaning the shaft really forward here. If he basically, let's go to touch, sorry. So at this point at touch, the face is slightly closed to the path, but my path is 5 degrees inside to out, and my face angle is 3.2 degrees open. And that's in relation to the target. So there's a face to path number here that, this is the face to path number for Jonas. It's 1.62 degrees closed. That's in relation to the path. And then this number down here is actually the face angle. This number right here, and this is actually Len Matisse here. But you basically get the idea. This face angle right here is not the leading edge. It's actually a 90-degree angle from the red line. So we basically we gave you the face angle view from this point, and then one going out that way. And you're always going to have a 90-degree angle on this line from the red line. Okay, so it's not the leading edge. This is actually the center of the face. If the face was square, or excuse me, if the face had no loft on it, it would not matter what I did to the lie angle, that the face angle would be the same. But as soon as I start to add loft, then the face angle is altered by what you're going to do with the lie angle. And the face and the loft are inseparable. So when you move one, the other moves. So in this case, here's an example of a player, Jonas Blixt versus Lenny Matisse, a player who swings more inside to out and than Len Matisse. And there's certain strengths and penalties. If you want to hit kind of a low draw, this would be a good way to do it. But the face angle basically is very affected by what you're going to do with your wrists and also what you're going to do with the handle position. So if we look down the line here, and I overlay these two players, Jonas Blixt starts with the handle very low, and he moves it up a fair amount, and then Lenny Matisse, if I take them both at address, they both keep the handle. Jonas is a little bit shorter, and the handle is slightly lower, and he stands farther away from it, and he tees it higher, and then by the time we get to impact, both players are going to move the handle up quite a bit, which is causing the clubs to go into a lot of a droop, and that's causing the face angle to open. So the more the shaft droops, the more the face angle will flatten and open. Even with that said, Jonas Blixt, even with all that handle raise that Jonas did, again, here's Jonas at start, and here's Jonas at impact. So he's raising the handle a lot, and that's why he's getting, roughly 45 millimeters of shaft droop, or 50 millimeters of shaft droop at impact. Lenny Matisse does more of it, and that's why he's getting a little bit more shaft droop. But this movement of the handle and the shaft droop is going to affect the lie angle. In this case, Jonas Blixt is 11 degrees upright, even with all that handle movement. So he's trying everything he can to keep the face from closing. And he's got this really kind of low handle. The shaft gets underneath his right arm. The club comes in really low delivery, okay, with a lot of wrist flexion, okay. So he's going to be kind of dragging the handle, so to speak. And you'll see here that this is how he squares the face up. So again, that Lenny Matisse is squaring the face up by raising the handle. Jonas Blixt is opening the face by leaning the shaft forward and raising the handle. So there's two tour players that are manipulating the club face very differently. And Jonas Blixt is playing with a 63-degree driver. Lenny's at 62-degree driver. And Jonas has more loft, has 10 degrees of loft. And so with that much loft and that much upright, that face is going to be really closed unless I really shaft lean the heck out of this thing or raise the handle a lot. So he does this. He swings, the face is 3.5 degrees open to the target, but it's still closed to his path. So he's hitting basically a low hook, even with a 10-degree driver. He's presenting 11 degrees of loft to the ball, and it's kind of a low launching draw. Or it's kind of a mid-launching, kind of mid-launch, low-spin kind of drawing action, which I don't know if is ideal for PGA Tour when we're driving, hitting low draws. I think there's some there might be some penalties there. I think that's pretty safe to say. If we were to pull this handle back, if we were to pull Jonas's handle back, okay, that would basically close the face angle quite a bit. Even if he didn't raise it, if we just simply pulled it, if we kept it right where it's at and we pulled it back, probably best viewed from above. Okay, so if I pulled this handle back where we'd kind of like to see it, that path would get a lot better. The angle of attack would go up. All those things that we want for a little higher launch, lower spin, give him some more better launch conditions. The problem is that the face angle would be very closed, and that's a result of the driver being so upright. So the more loft you have, the more important this lie angle becomes, and then that face angle is affected by all those things. So understanding where the ball's being hit on the face, what's causing the launch, what that's doing to the path, and what that's doing to the face is really critical. Understanding gear effect, understanding when you're hitting an iron versus a driver, are you paying attention to gearing effect? And in this case, I think Jonas is just doing everything he can to keep it from hooking, and he hits a low push draw to keep it from going left. And the challenge with that, sometimes if you hang on to it with these numbers, we're going to see if he leans the shaft a little forward or raises the handle or comes out of one, we can see push fade pretty easily. So we can see a push fade and kind of a low draw, push draw or overdraw pretty easily with these numbers with the handle forward. This is a result of the handle being so low and forward. So even though I think Jonas's teacher is fighting this golf club probably more than he's fighting Jonas, he probably wants the handle to come back. He probably wants to launch it higher. He probably wants to hit it straighter. But with a 63-degree driver and his hand path, he's simply doing everything he can to hit the middle of the fairway. So anyways, that's kind of if you kind of overlay, this is kind of how different players manipulate the club face. They also do it with wrist angles too, and moving their hands away from the body. There's lots of different ways to square the club face. But what I wanted to show you today was basically, different ways of looking at the face, making sure that you understand what's causing the launch, and what would happen. Like if I were to tee this ball down a little bit, and what would happen is the ball would launch lower, it would spin more, but it would have more speed. And if he liked that. But if he wanted he liked the speed, but he didn't like, the low launch and more spin, then we would simply tee it lower, and then we would add more loft to the driver, and then he could get the higher launch and the speed, and then we'd probably just give him a lower spinning head to reduce the spin or to tighten the shaft. So then we can get speed, launch, and spin. Like most tour players hit it a little bit lower and get more max ball speed. So anyways, that's face angle. That's a video on face angle, an example of two tour players that do it totally different, that square the face very differently. And these are the factors that you have to consider when you're watching ball flight. If you have any questions or comments, please send them off. I hope you enjoyed the video. Next one is going to be on shaft.